Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns were born in 1946 in a rival league and immediately changed football forever. Owner Arthur McBride hired Paul Brown, a coach who treated football like a science. Brown introduced film study, playbooks, positional meetings, and full-time assistants, things every team now uses. The Browns dominated the AAFC, winning 4 straight championships, then joined the NFL in 1950 and won the league title instantly. They were so advanced that NFL owners feared them. Led by Otto Graham and later Jim Brown, Cleveland became the gold standard of pro football. Even after Paul Brown was fired, his blueprint endured. The Browns' legacy is innovation, dominance, and shaping how modern football is coached, practiced, and understood across every level. Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens were created in 1996 from chaos and controversy. When Browns owner Art Modell moved his roster to Baltimore, the NFL struck a rare deal. Cleveland kept its history, while Baltimore received a brand new franchise. A fan vote chose Ravens, inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, who lived and is buried in the city. From day one, Baltimore built its identity around defense. Drafting Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden immediately set the tone. By 2000, the Ravens fielded one of the most dominant defenses ever and won Super Bowl 35. They added another title in 2012 and reinvented themselves again with Lamar Jackson. Few franchises adapt so quickly. The Ravens' success proves identity, defense, and smart drafting can build winners without decades of waiting. Indianapolis Colts. The Colts began in 1953 in Baltimore, named for the city's horse racing heritage. Behind Johnny Unitas, they helped launch pro football into the national spotlight, especially after the legendary 1958 championship game. That win changed how America viewed the NFL. The franchise won multiple titles before everything unraveled. In 1984, owner Robert Irsay secretly moved the team to Indianapolis overnight, one of sports' most infamous relocations. Despite the bitterness, the Colts rebuilt. Drafting Peyton Manning in 1998 transformed the franchise again, leading to Super Bowl 41. From Unitas to Manning, the Colts' history is defined by quarterback excellence. Few teams have influenced football's popularity and offensive evolution more than this constantly reinvented franchise across different cities and eras. Tennessee Titans. The Titans began as the Houston Oilers in 1960, one of the AFL's original powerhouses. They won the league's first 2 championships and became synonymous with offensive firepower. Over decades, they evolved through multiple identities, from Earl Campbell's bruising runs to Warren Moon's run-and-shoot offense. Stadium disputes eventually pushed the franchise out of Houston. In 1997, they relocated to Tennessee, first as the Oilers, then rebranded as the Titans in 1999. That same year, they reached Super Bowl 34, losing by 1 yard in one of the most dramatic finishes ever. The Titans' history is movement, reinvention, and resilience. Few franchises have traveled so far geographically and stylistically while maintaining competitive relevance through multiple generations of football history. Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders were born in 1960 as an AFL afterthought, but quickly became football's ultimate rebel franchise. Under Al Davis, the team embraced speed, aggression, and defiance. The silver and black identity symbolized intimidation, not polish. The Raiders won championships in Oakland and Los Angeles, proving success traveled with their culture. Davis constantly challenged the league, suing the NFL and winning landmark cases that reshaped team movement rights. Relocations followed, from Oakland to Los Angeles, back to Oakland, and finally to Las Vegas. Through it all, the Raiders brand stayed intact. Their history is about independence, star power, and doing things their own way. No franchise better represents football's outlaw spirit or the power of identity over location. Washington Commanders. Washington's franchise began in 1932 as the Boston Braves, sharing a stadium with baseball. After a quick rebrand to the Redskins, the team moved to Washington, D.C. and quickly found success, winning championships in multiple eras. They became a national brand during the television boom, especially under coach Joe Gibbs, capturing 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. But the franchise later became defined by controversy, ownership turmoil, on-field decline, and mounting pressure over the team name, forced a historic reckoning. In 2020, the name was retired, ending decades of debate. After 2 seasons as Washington football team, they became the Commanders. Their story reflects football's evolution, cultural accountability, and how legacy franchises must adapt or risk collapsing under their own history. Los Angeles Rams. The Rams were founded in 1936 and became the NFL's first true nomadic franchise. They won titles in Cleveland, Los Angeles, and St. Louis, proving success followed ambition. Their 1946 move to Los Angeles made them the first West Coast NFL team and forced league integration, reshaping football history. The Rams repeatedly reinvented themselves, from the fearsome foursome defenses to the greatest show on turf offense. Stadium disputes led to a return to Los Angeles in 2016, aligning with the league's modern entertainment vision. In 2021, they won a Super Bowl in their new stadium, validating the gamble. The Rams' legacy is innovation, relocation, and proving that calculated risk can redefine a franchise's destiny across generations. San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers were founded in 1946 as the first major pro sports team on the West Coast. Named after the Gold Rush prospectors, they symbolized ambition and opportunity. Early years were competitive, but title elusive until Bill Walsh arrived. His West Coast offense revolutionized football, prioritizing timing, precision, and space. With Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and later Steve Young, the 49ers became a dynasty, winning 5 Super Bowls between 1981 and 1994. Their influence extended beyond wins, changing how offenses were built league-wide. Even after dynasties ended, San Francisco remained a destination franchise. The 49ers story is about innovation, quarterback excellence, and shaping how modern football looks on Sundays. Few teams have defined an era so completely through philosophy alone. New England Patriots. The Patriots began in 1960 as the Boston Patriots, struggling for relevance in the AFL. For decades, they were forgettable, bouncing between stadiums and mediocrity. Everything changed in 2000 when Bill Belichick arrived, followed by an unheralded quarterback named Tom Brady. Together, they built the most dominant dynasty in modern sports. 6 Super Bowl titles, 9 appearances, and 20 years of contention rewrote expectations. The Patriots became synonymous with discipline, preparation, and ruthless efficiency. Controversies followed, but winning never stopped. Their sustained dominance reshaped how franchises pursued success. The Patriots proved dynasties could exist in the salary cap era. No team mastered the balance of coaching, quarterback play, and organizational stability better or longer than New England during football's most competitive era. New York Jets. The Jets began in 1960 as the Titans of New York, a chaotic, underfunded AFL franchise. Bankruptcy nearly ended them before a rebrand saved everything. Renamed the Jets in 1963, the team leaned into modernity, aviation, and attitude. Their defining moment came in Super Bowl III when Joe Namath guaranteed victory and delivered. That upset legitimized the AFL and accelerated the NFL merger. Ironically, that remains the franchise's lone championship. Since then, the Jets have cycled through hope, heartbreak, and quarterback instability. Despite massive market exposure, sustained success has remained elusive. The Jets story is football's cruelest paradox. One of the most important wins in league history belongs to a franchise still chasing relevance decades later, defined forever by a single historic moment. Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys were founded in 1960 as part of the NFL's push into football-obsessed Texas. From the start, they aimed to be modern, innovative, and national. Hiring Tom Landry set everything in motion. His stoic leadership and schematic creativity built a contender within a decade. By the 70s, Dallas became America's team, winning 2 Super Bowls and dominating television ratings. The brand only grew in the 90s under owner Jerry Jones, who paired bold management with elite talent like Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin. 3 titles followed, cementing global popularity. Few franchises blend winning, marketing, and controversy like Dallas. The Cowboys aren't just a team, they're a cultural institution built on visibility, confidence, and decades of sustained relevance. Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers were founded in 1933, but spent decades as one of football's worst teams. Everything changed in the 1970s. Drafting defensive legends and hiring Chuck Noll transformed Pittsburgh into a dynasty built on toughness and discipline. The Steel Curtain defense powered 4 Super Bowl titles in 6 years, redefining physical football. Later eras continued the standard. In the 2000s, Ben Roethlisberger and elite defenses added 2 more championships. Pittsburgh became the model of stability, rarely tanking and rarely panicking. Ownership continuity and drafting philosophy kept them competitive across generations. The Steelers' identity is blue-collar excellence. They don't chase trends, they impose culture. 6 Super Bowls, decades of winning seasons and a city that lives through football define one of the NFL's most respected franchises, Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers were founded in 1919 and remain the NFL's most unique franchise. Owned by the community, not a billionaire, they survived when other small-town teams disappeared. Early dominance under Curly Lambeau produced multiple championships, but the modern legend began in the 1960s. Vince Lombardi built a dynasty defined by discipline and execution, winning 5 titles, including the first 2 Super Bowls. Decades later, the Packers struck gold again with Brett Favre and then Aaron Rodgers. Few teams transition between elite quarterbacks so seamlessly. Lambeau Field became sacred ground, frozen and unforgiving. The Packers represent tradition, continuity, and excellence without glamour. In a league driven by money and markets, Green Bay proves stability and culture can still win at the highest level. Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are one of the NFL's foundational franchises dating back to 1919. Built by George Halas, they helped legitimize professional football when the sport struggled for respect. Early dominance came through innovation, including the revolutionary T-formation offense. The Bears won multiple championships before the Super Bowl era and remained relevant for decades. Their identity became defense and physicality, culminating in the 1985 team. That Bears squad, led by a historic defense, crushed opponents and won Super Bowl 20. Despite offensive struggles since, the Bears remain iconic. Soldier Field, monsters of the Midway, and legendary defenses define them. Chicago's football identity is grit, not finesse. Few franchises carry as much historical weight. Even without modern dominance, the Bears remain inseparable from the NFL's origin story and cultural foundation. Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are the oldest franchise in professional football, founded in 1898. They predate the NFL itself. Originating in Chicago, they changed names, uniforms, and cities repeatedly while struggling for relevance. Championships came early, but financial instability haunted them for decades. Moves to St. Louis and later Arizona reflected survival more than ambition. Despite flashes of competitiveness, sustained success never followed. Unlike other legacy teams, the Cardinals rarely benefited from long-term stability. Their history is defined by endurance rather than dominance. Yet surviving more than a century in professional football is its own achievement. The Cardinals represent football's earliest roots, a reminder of how fragile the league once was. While titles are few, their longevity makes them a living artifact of the sport's evolution. Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions began as the Portsmouth Spartans, a small-town team that punched above its weight. A 1932 playoff game helped shape the modern NFL postseason structure. Financial pressure forced relocation to Detroit, where the Lions quickly became popular and established Thanksgiving as a league tradition. Early championships followed, but success faded as the league evolved. Despite Hall of Fame talent like Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, the Lions struggled with management and roster building. Playoff wins became rare, frustration constant. Yet Detroit's fan base never disappeared. The Lions embody loyalty through suffering. Few franchises test belief like this one. Their history isn't about dominance, but perseverance. In a results-driven league, the Lions remain proof that identity and tradition can survive even when winning does not. Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs began as the Dallas Texans, founded by Lamar Hunt as part of the AFL. Early success followed, including a championship before relocating to Kansas City. Renamed the Chiefs, they became a pillar of the AFL, and later legitimized the merger by winning Super Bowl IV. After that, decades of inconsistency followed. Arrowhead Stadium stayed loud, but championships vanished. Everything changed in the late 2010s. Drafting Patrick Mahomes transformed the franchise overnight. Explosive offense, innovative coaching, and sustained dominance followed. Multiple Super Bowls cemented Kansas City as the league's new powerhouse. The Chiefs' story is patience rewarded. From AFL rebels to modern dynasty, they show how one quarterback can redefine everything. Today, Kansas City represents football's present and future simultaneously. Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos entered the league with little respect and ugly uniforms, but loyal fans never wavered. Early struggles defined them until the 1970s brought legitimacy and Super Bowl appearances. John Elway's arrival changed everything. Though early losses haunted him, his competitiveness dragged Denver into relevance. Late career championships erased doubt and cemented his legacy. Years later, Peyton Manning revived the franchise again, delivering another title before retiring. Few teams have been rebuilt so completely around elite quarterbacks. Denver's identity is resilience. Playing at altitude, backed by relentless fans, the Broncos consistently reemerge. They are never dormant for long. From humble beginnings to sustained prominence, Denver's history proves that stability, patience, and star quarterbacks can repeatedly pull a franchise back into contention. Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills were founded as part of the AFL and immediately embodied blue-collar football. Early championships established credibility, but heartbreak defined their legacy. In the early 90s, Buffalo reached 4 straight Super Bowls, an unmatched achievement. Unfortunately, they lost all 4, creating one of sport's cruelest narratives. Despite decades of struggle afterward, the fan base only grew stronger. Bills Mafia became legendary for loyalty and chaos. Recently, drafting Josh Allen reignited hope. Buffalo returned to contention with explosive offense and belief restored. The Bills represent perseverance. Few franchises endure pain like this and remain passionate. Their history is a reminder that greatness doesn't always come with trophies. Sometimes it comes with resilience, identity, and fans who refuse to leave no matter how hard it gets. Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins joined the league in 1966 and quickly became a powerhouse under Don Shula. The pinnacle came in 1972 with the only perfect season in NFL history. That team remains untouchable. Miami added another title and stayed relevant for decades. Dan Marino's arrival redefined offense even without a championship. His arm talent and production kept Miami nationally relevant. Despite recent struggles, the Dolphins maintain historical prestige few teams can match. Aqua uniforms, speed, and offensive innovation define them. The undefeated season remains football's ultimate standard, celebrated every year it survives. Miami's legacy is excellence at its peak and frustration afterward. Few franchises have reached heights so absolute. The Dolphins will forever own one of sport's most unbreakable records, cementing their place in NFL history. New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints were founded in 1967 on All Saints' Day, instantly tying the franchise to the city's Catholic roots and cultural identity. Early years were defined by losing, heartbreak, and loyal fans who showed up anyway. For decades, the Saints were lovable underdogs with little success. Everything changed after Hurricane Katrina. The city was devastated, and the franchise's future was uncertain. Then came Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Their arrival transformed everything. The Saints returned home in 2006 and became a symbol of recovery. In 2009, they won Super Bowl 44, delivering the city its first championship. The Saints represent resilience, rebirth, and how football can unite a city when it needs hope most. Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings joined the NFL in 1961 and immediately embraced a rugged identity rooted in Scandinavian heritage. Cold weather, toughness, and defense defined the franchise. Under coach Bud Grant in the 1970s, the Vikings became a powerhouse. The Purple People Eaters' defense terrorized offenses and carried Minnesota to 4 Super Bowls. Unfortunately, they lost all 4. That heartbreak became part of their identity. Despite never winning a championship, the Vikings remained consistently competitive across decades. Stars like Fran Tarkenton, Randy Moss, and Adrian Peterson kept them relevant. Their fan base stayed loyal through constant near misses. Minnesota's history is defined by excellence without closure. Few teams have been so consistently good without ever finishing the job. The Vikings represent football's most painful what-if, built on greatness and unfinished business. Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals were founded in 1968 by Paul Brown, the man who had already changed football once. After being pushed out of Cleveland, Brown built Cincinnati with precision and patience. Early success came quickly, including division titles and Super Bowl appearances in the 80s. Still, championships remained elusive. Long stretches of dysfunction followed, marked by playoff failures and instability. Everything changed with Joe Burrow. Drafted first overall, Burrow transformed the franchise's confidence and culture. Cincinnati suddenly became fearless. A Super Bowl appearance in 2021 proved the rebuild was real. The Bengals' story is redemption. From exile to relevance, Paul Brown's vision finally returned. Cincinnati now represents patience paying off and a franchise escaping decades of its own shadow to reclaim legitimacy. Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles were founded in 1933 during the Great Depression, symbolizing resilience from the start. Named after a New Deal symbol, the team embodied grit. Early struggles gave way to championships in the late 40s, but decades passed without ultimate success. Philadelphia fans stayed passionate and unforgiving. The Eagles' identity became toughness, defense, and emotion. That spirit finally paid off in 2017. Led by backup quarterback Nick Foles, the Eagles shocked the Patriots and won their first Super Bowl. It was one of the most emotional victories in league history. The Eagles proved belief matters. Their journey from underdogs to champions mirrored their fan base. Philadelphia football is raw, loud, and relentless, and that championship validated generations of loyalty built through frustration and faith. New York Giants. The New York Giants were founded in 1925 to legitimize professional football in America's largest market. Owned by the Mara family for generations, they became a league cornerstone. Early championships established credibility, and defensive excellence defined later eras. The Giants won titles with smash-mouth football, most famously upsetting undefeated New England in Super Bowl 42. That victory became legendary. Another title followed 4 years later, reinforcing their reputation for rising in big moments. Unlike flashier franchises, the Giants thrived on discipline and defense. Playing in New York brought pressure, but stability kept them competitive. The Giants represent old-school professionalism. They don't chase trends. They win when it matters. Few teams balance tradition and modern success better, and fewer still thrive under the weight of the league's biggest spotlight. Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers were founded in 1960 as an AFL team built on innovation. Under coach Sid Gilman, they revolutionized the passing game, influencing modern offenses. Despite talent and excitement, championships never followed. The team moved from Los Angeles to San Diego, where they became beloved but snake-bitten. Stars like LaDainian Tomlinson and Phillip Rivers kept them competitive, yet postseason heartbreak defined them. A controversial return to Los Angeles in 2017 fractured their fan base. Still, the Chargers remain loaded with talent. With Justin Herbert, hope exists again. The Chargers' history is unrealized potential. Few teams have produced so many stars with so little hardware. Their story is about innovation, frustration, and the constant belief that greatness is right around the corner, even if it never quite arrives. Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons were founded in 1966 as the NFL's first Deep South franchise. Early years were rough, but growth mirrored the city's rise. The Falcons found relevance in the 90s with a surprise Super Bowl run and again in the 2010s behind Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Their darkest moment came in Super Bowl 51. A massive lead vanished in historic fashion, creating one of sports' most infamous collapses. That moment still defines them nationally, yet Atlanta has consistently produced elite offenses and stars. The Falcons' story is volatility, high highs, crushing lows, and constant reinvention. As the city continues to grow, the franchise searches for stability. Atlanta represents modern football's unpredictability, where talent alone isn't enough to guarantee legacy or closure. Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers began play in 1995 and immediately shattered expansion expectations. In just their second season, they reached the conference championship, setting a league record. Built as a regional team for both Carolinas, they embraced toughness and unity. The franchise found its defining moments in Super Bowl appearances, first in 2003 and again in 2015. Cam Newton's MVP season turned Carolina into must-watch television. Yet sustained success proved difficult. Coaching changes and roster turnover followed. The Panthers' identity remains physical and resilient. Keep pounding became more than a slogan. Carolina's story is fast rises and abrupt resets. They proved expansion teams could compete instantly, but also how hard it is to stay elite. The Panthers symbolize potential, pride, and the constant challenge of maintaining momentum. Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars shocked the league before they ever played a game. Awarded an expansion franchise over larger markets, expectations were low, then everything flipped. In just their second season, the Jaguars made a stunning playoff run to the conference championship. That early success set unrealistic expectations. Years of inconsistency followed, marked by coaching turnover and declining attendance. Brief resurgences kept hope alive, including a deep playoff run in 2017. Recently, Trevor Lawrence reignited belief. Jacksonville's history is about proving doubters wrong, then struggling to sustain momentum. Small market challenges persist, but the potential remains real. The Jaguars represent football's unpredictability. Sometimes lightning strikes early. The real challenge is building something that lasts. Jacksonville continues searching for that balance between surprise success and long-term stability. Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are the NFL's youngest franchise, founded in 2002 to heal a football wound. After losing the Oilers, Houston demanded a new team. The Texans were built on state pride, reflected in their name and branding. Early years were difficult, but stars like Andre Johnson and J.J. Watt established credibility. Watt became the face of the franchise, embodying effort and dominance. Playoff appearances followed, but instability undermined progress. Recent years brought chaos and collapse. Now, with C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, optimism has returned quickly. Houston's story is about rebirth twice over, losing a team, gaining another, and rebuilding again. The Texans prove youth doesn't prevent relevance, and the right leadership can accelerate growth faster than anyone expects. Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks entered the league in 1976 and built a reputation around crowd noise and defensive pride. Playing in the Pacific Northwest, they cultivated a unique identity. Early success came sporadically, but the franchise truly ascended under Pete Carroll. The Legion of Boom defense redefined physical secondary play, and Russell Wilson provided late-game magic. In 2013, Seattle demolished Denver in Super Bowl 48, announcing their arrival as a powerhouse. Another appearance followed, ending in heartbreak at the goal line. Seattle remains defined by energy, aggression, and innovation. Their fan base turned stadium noise into a weapon. The Seahawks represent modern football culture, loud, fast, and emotionally charged. They showed how environment, coaching, and belief could transform a franchise into a dominant force seemingly overnight. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers began in 1976 and immediately made history for losing. Their first 26 games ended in defeat. Somehow, they rebounded quickly, reaching a conference championship within 4 years. Then came decades of irrelevance. Everything changed in the late 90s. A dominant defense led by Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks built a championship foundation. In 2002, Tampa won Super Bowl 37 in a defensive masterpiece. Years later, history repeated. Signing Tom Brady transformed the franchise overnight. In 2020, the Buccaneers won a Super Bowl at home, a first in NFL history. The Buccaneers' story is extremes. From worst beginnings to improbable peaks, they proved timing matters. Catch lightning twice, and even the most chaotic franchise can reach football's summit again. If you like this video, check this next one out, which YouTube thinks you are going to love.